Hejsan allihopa och välkomna till dagens seminarium som kommer att handla om någonting som vi inte har pratat på ganska länge om. Det är Windows Server 2019 och vi har med Lars Hägnell från Microsoft som en commercial trainer kring detta som kommer att prata om det. Vi kommer att beröra lite kring licensiering. Och jag heter Alexander Pontikis och jag är nordisk produktchef för Microsofts commercial produkter för små och medelstora företag. Ni får gärna ställa frågor i chatten. Efter anförandet så får ni också fortsätta ställa frågor. Vi ser gärna, jag och Lars, att det här blir lite interaktivt. Så att det är bara att räcka upp handen virtuellt eller ställa en fråga i chatten, så kommer vi svara både under och vi kommer såklart även ha en liten FAQ eller en Q&A efteråt. So I think that's it. So please go ahead, Lars.
Thank you very much. And as said, we're going to look into the Windows Server 2019 licensing and try to get an overview on all the possibilities and options and what we have to in the Windows Server 2019 version. I am the Nordic OEM category manager for server. So basically, I'm responsible for driving the server business as OEM. Okay, so let's start by looking into which type of licenses we actually can purchase and how Microsoft distributes their OSs. So basically, we have three primary ways to sell the OS Windows Server 2019 license. First of all, we have the volume licensing model, which basically is the license that is purchased directly from Microsoft from the end customer. Then we have the COEM version, which is the channel OEM version. It's sold by resellers and supported by resellers. The volume license is supported by volume license, so directly with Microsoft. Then finally, we have, and most importantly, we have the OEM/ROC license, which is purchased through our OEM manufacturers, our hardware vendors, our distributors, and our resellers. So, looking into why we are pushing the OEM Microsoft message is basically these pillars that we're building on, and it is that when you look at any customer purchasing an OEM license, the OEM license is pre-installed and pre-tested and optimized for running on this server configuration, this infrastructure. Whereas the volume license, it is an end customer up to the end customer to install it and to implement it on the infrastructure. This OEM license is pre-installed, which means that it takes 86% time less to deploy on a server than it would a COEM license or a volume license. There are 40% steps fewer. Basically, deploying an OEM license takes 5 steps, which is very few. So you're looking to only implement one server. It is still a big efficiency save. But if you're looking to save, like to implement more than that, you can see it adds up. And it becomes really, really important for the end customer to have an easy and fast way to deploy their OS. Also from you could see in regards to the implementation is very important in the sense that less steps, less time equals less risk of making mistakes or something going wrong. Also, which is very much important as well, is that it is the most cost-effective license of all, up to 22% more cost-effective than a volume license. So that is also a big factor in this. Then we have the final point, which I see as a very, very important thing as well for the end customer, is that we have one point of contact when purchasing a OEM license. As we said before, if you purchase a volume license, your support is with Volume License Service Center from Microsoft on the license bit. The support from the hardware will come from the hardware vendor, etc., etc. So you will have multiple points of contact when purchasing volume licenses. COEM, the support on the license comes from the reseller, whereas again, as I said, with the OEM license, one point of contact, which is the hardware vendor. Looking into the different editions we have with Windows Server 2019, basically have 3 licenses to sell. We have the Essential editions, we have the Standard editions, we have the Data Center editions. If we look at the Essential edition, it has limitations in the sense that it must be the root of the domain. Which means that in the Active Directory, you can't link it with other servers. It has to be the only server in the Active Directory. And it also has a limitations in the amount of users and devices that you can implement in AD. So that is basically the license that we would choose to sell to a small server running basically a printer, something like that. Whereas when we look at the other 2 editions, we have multiple opportunities with those. So basically, when we look at Standard and Data Center editions, they have unlimited users and devices. You can cluster those into a bigger infrastructure, and you also have the opportunity to use virtual machines. So basically, you add in the virtualization with those. With Data Center Edition, you also have the opportunity to run hyperconverged infrastructure with software-defined networking, software-defined storage, right? If we look at the number of users and devices as set in Standard and Data Center Edition, it is unlimited. And basically, it's based on CALs. So CALs is client access license. I will get back to that at a later stage. So the main reason for our customers to migrate from a previous day using Essential editions and to Standard Data Centers would be in regards to virtual machines, virtualization as well, and being able to cluster them and build a bigger infrastructure. Just a short overview on, we're going to see it here as well, where you can see the user limitations with the Essential Edition and being able to have unlimited users and devices with Standard and Data Center editions as well. Also, with Standard and Data Center editions, you can implement using the Windows Admin Center. Okay. So when we look at the Windows Server 2019 license, and how we license it, it is a core license. So we moved from a CPU license to a core licensing to better collaborate with the cloud structure we have and basically all other licensing models we have. So if we look at the need to be compliant in regards to how you license your server. So if you have like in this instance where you have like multiple processors, multiple cores, you need to license, first of all cores. All physical cores in the server needs to be licensed. And a minimum of 8 cores per processor and a minimum of 16 cores per server. We do have, for some cases, we do have the opportunity to license only one processor with an 8-core license we're running now, but it is not for all, let's say. In regards to virtual machine licensing, what we see is that people tend to start virtualizing. Most companies are running virtualization in their infrastructure. And if we look at the slide we had previous, we knew that the standard edition only granted 2 VMs per license. So once we have a scenario as we have in this case, where we have licensed 16 cores with a standard license, then you have 2 virtual machines. Now, in the case that you have a customer that needs more than 2 virtual machines, the customer will have to relicense all cores. So basically, they will have to buy 2 16-core licenses for standard. In this particular scenario we have here, where we have 20 cores in the server configuration, then the customer will need to license all 20 cores twice. So basically buying a 16-core license and additional 2 core licenses as well. So that will, in this case, be to run 4 virtual machines, you would need to license 40 cores. To run 6 virtual machines, you would need to license 60 cores. So this basically also gives us the opportunity to have the discussion with the end customer in regards to when to choose data center license instead of standard license. There is the obvious reason: if they're running hyperconverged infrastructure, then it's a given that they need to make the shift to data center license. But also, we need to make sure that we future-proof our end customers' solutions. So basically, if we have customers running virtual machines, we know that they're just going to keep adding on virtual machines as years go by. As soon as they start implementing it, the need for virtual machine grows and grows in time. So basically, we need to have that discussion up front, talking to the end customer, saying, okay, how many virtual machines do you need to run now? And if they say like 4 to 6, fine, you can sell them 2 to 3 standard licenses. But as soon as they move past 6 virtual machines and go into 8, 10 virtual machines, even though it will still be cheaper for them to purchase 4 or 5 standard licenses, we know that in very short time they will ask for more more virtual machines, and in that case they will need to upgrade to a data center license. Another very important thing about pushing the data center license is also that in case of a failover with the virtual machines, you can't move your virtual machines across servers unless you have unlimited virtual machines, basically. So if you are running 3 servers with 2 virtual machines on each, and you choose to, and one of the servers goes down, you need to move the workload from 2 virtual machines on the last server. You don't have place or you don't have an opportunity to move the 2 virtual machines to the other 2 servers, because they're already running their limit on virtual machines. Had they been running data center licenses, they would have had unlimited virtual machines to run, so they could just easily have moved there. Any other questions? Okay. Before I go, I just want to go back, because what I want to say is, when we look at this scenario, well, we have whenever we sell Windows Server licenses, we have a number of licenses, and sometimes it can be very confusing for us and end customers which license to choose, because they don't only have to choose between essential, standard, and data center. They also have to choose between like the 16-core license and the additional licenses, the extra 16-core license, etc., etc. So basically, what we need to remind ourselves is that any customer purchasing an operating system from Windows Server 2019, they will need to have as minimum a 16-core license, and we should always sell the media kit. So we have the license with the media kit, And this is where we see most of our issues, is basically that we fail to upsell with the media kit. I think the media kit is about $20 as a standard. And we fail to upsell with the media kit, and thereby the end customer has issues in regards to implementing, deploying, resellers, end customers. And it also helps us in regards to making sure that we do not sell the wrong license. We see some cases where we have sold additional 2-core licenses instead of a 16-core license, etc., etc. We look at pricing. It's a flat price, meaning that it is the same price to purchase 8 2-core licenses than it is to purchase a 16-core license. There is no advantage of choosing one or the other. The only thing is that we need a 16-core license as a primary, as a minimum, and again, make sure to upsell with the media kit, because the media kit also gives our end customer the opportunity to downgrade to the 2 previous versions. We look at the landscape of how end customers are utilizing Windows Server editions. They're basically running previous versions, so very few are actually running 2019 as of now. So most of them are downgrading. So they need the media kit to downgrade. They need the downgrade kit, but make sure that we upsell with the media kit, and then we are also sure that we have sold the right license. I'm going to shift to client access licensing. So any questions? Just feel free to speak up now in regards to the previous.
Right now, everything is crystal clear.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So this is another area that kind of confuses, because this is the client access license. So basically, every time we have an end customer implementing an OS, all their employees needs to have a client access license. So every user, every device accessing the infrastructure needs to have either user or device cal. So when to choose user or when to choose device cals? Well, basically the user cal is the single user with unlimited devices. So you have one user, have multiple devices. Most of us would be a user, seeing that we are able to access our company mails from our phones, from our laptop, from desktops, etc., etc. So we have multiple options to access the company network, right? So we would use a user cal. We would have to have a user cal. The device cal is, like as it says, like the single device with unlimited users. So a device cal would be used for, it could be the reception at a company where we have one desktop and we have multiple receptionist substitutes that basically access this desktop during the day. It could also be, for instance, a library where you have a desktop for like a search engine where multiple users will use that during the day. They would have a device cal. We have the remote desktop access cals, which basically is for those customers that needs to access the desktops remotely. So, and the important thing about the RDS cals is that they are not a standalone cal. So every time we purchase, we have a customer that has a need for an RDS cal, they will have to combine it with either a user cal or device cal. So we should never sell RDS cals as a standalone. In these cases where most of us are working from home remotely, we have an increased need for the RDS cal. So we have an increased inquiry in regards from the cals. So in that case, of course, we can sell them as standalone, because most of these customers should already have either a user or device cal, right? So oops, it's gonna go so like this. So CALs are version specific, meaning that whenever we have a customer purchasing an infrastructure, a new server configuration, with Windows Server 2019, we would usually have an opportunity to upsell with a CAL, because the 2019 CALs are valid for running running on Windows Server 2019 and the previous versions. However, previous versions of CALs are not compliant with Windows Server 2019. As you can see in this case, you have a customer that already has 2016 CALs and now purchasing Windows Server 2019. They can run the Windows Server 2016 CALs with the Windows Server 2016 edition, but even though they downgrade from Windows Server 2019 to Windows Server 2016, it is still a Windows Server 2019 license. And in order to be compliant with Microsoft rules, they will need to purchase all new CALs. So let's say they have 100 employees. They've been running Windows Server 2016 for a couple of years, and they have bought 2016 CALs. Now they're purchasing new system, upgrading with Windows Server 2019. All those 100 employees will need a new CAL, a 2019 CAL. So hope that it is clear. Just in regards to the first slide I showed, where we had the different ways to purchase Microsoft licenses, either like the VL or the COEM, the retail license, or the OEM license. So the CALs are license agnostic, so it doesn't matter if the end customer purchases their CALs from OEM, volume license, or retail. It's the same. It's compliant with all. One thing to say here is that it's, again, cheaper to purchase for them the OEM license, CAL license, than it would be to purchase from either retail or volume. So as a ROC, you can also, from reseller perspective, you can also sell the ROC OEM CALs as standalone. Whereas OEM licenses are attached to one server, the CALs are not a pre-installed license. So basically, you can sell that as a standalone. You can upsell. It can be post sales, where you can have that discussion and make sure that the end customer are compliant with Microsoft rules and have purchased the OEM CALs. Just running over quickly, all the key facts about the CALs is that the customer needs to buy server CALs. It is in order to be compliant. So basically, all OS operating system needs a product key to be installed, whereas the CALs are only a certificate that you get from purchase. So you are not registering user or device CALs. You are, however, registering RDS CALs, so they will come with product key as well that you need to activate. So, but it is still a compliant issue in regards to Microsoft. It is a place where we see the most opportunity to have a discussion with our customers, because most customers fail to recognize that they actually need those access licenses as well as the operating system. So I think we have a little more time. I have 5 minutes left. I just want to make sure that I highlight the opportunity we have right now. I think this most key for all our end customers, and where we have an opportunity to drive some modernization. These are the Microsoft server priorities. I'm not going to go into deep into that. I just want to highlight the second item, which is drive the refresh, which is Windows Server 2008 end of support. We have here the product lifecycle, and what happened on January 14th this year was that the Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 was end of support, end of extended support. Actually, it was the previous year, but we extended it for a year. because we still had so many customers running Windows Server 28 or 28 R2. So why should these customers migrate? Well, first of all, of course, there is the security and compliance risk of running 2008, because since it's end of support, we don't have any updates or security patches on the 2008 anymore, and making it a huge liability for the customers to continue running that operating system. Again, we have an opportunity as well for the customer to innovate and start using modern technology with like virtualization, etc., etc. So if we look at the compliancy issue for end customers, we have two key pillars that are very, very important for end customers when we're looking at them running still 2008. First of all, we have the PCI, which is like the payment card industry and their security standards. All like MasterCard, Visa, etc., are not accepting any customers running 2008, of course, because there are no security patches up. Any like breach of security, data breach on that will be like a huge risk for the payment card industry, as well as we're looking at the GDPR. Those rules also make sure that the customer needs to upgrade their existing Windows Server 2008. We have like an example that some customers have fined up to 20 million euro for breaching data breach in regards to GDPR. So this is a huge risk for our end customers. And of course, understand that there are many issues, there are many reasons for them not to upgrade. First of all, they might not even be realizing that they are running at a risk. The complexity for them, the cost of upgrading, etc. They are running like legacy apps that they can't run on newer operating systems. All these things are, of course, a valid argument, but we still need to make sure that they understand that now is the time to upgrade, and it's been for a while. I want to show you this file as well, this slide as well, because it basically shows us that we have right now in our SMB segment, we have 80% of our physical servers are running Windows. 20% of those are 2003 and older. So if you look at it, it's basically 46% of those, almost half of those physical servers in SMB are running Windows Server 2008 or older versions. So this is a huge install base that we have an opportunity to reach out to and make sure that they are compliant and they are not at risk, and also having opportunity to of course modernize their infrastructure. This is basically just a recap of that, like performance, enhancing the performance when modernizing, making sure that that infrastructure is secure and etc. Right? So that is basically all for me. I think I made it in time frame.
You certainly did, Lars.
So any questions?
So I have just some comments and some questions. So what we are looking at, that we have a huge potential looking at the installed base being still on Windows Server 2008. And I think the ones who will be in the forefront are wonderful partners who are listening in here today, and which is great. And just by recapping, we have a great advantage with the OEM license. There are a single point of contact for support. It's faster deployment. They are easily moved to another hardware. Correct me if I'm wrong, since they're not ROOC licenses.
They are not. The OEM licenses are not. But I didn't take into account that we have what we call the software assurance, where we can basically attain that opportunity to move those licenses. But I would say that we in some cases have a like up to 40% cheaper license than what the customer could choose from purchasing the license directly from Microsoft when purchasing OEM or ROC. So basically, I would say, if looking at SMB customers, it's very rare that they would get into a situation where they basically, where it would be still be a benefit for them to have a license that they can move. It's so rarely that they basically have to move, and in case they have to move one license, it'd be cheaper. In most, like 99% of the case, it would be cheaper for them to purchase a new license. In that sense, right? So I would say that it is basically only a argument like against OEM because it's cheaper, it's pre-installed, pre-test, it's easy to deploy, one point of contact. So the only thing is that it can't be moved. Yeah, it is basically like it sticks with the with the hardware, right? So yeah. So, but that is the one thing, and we have an opportunity. If it is an issue with the customer, we have software assurance as well. I didn't put that into the slide, but it's but that is an opportunity as well. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for the clarification. And I will also state to everybody listening here today that we'll most likely return and talk more within the service space. We have been looking into also speaking about Azure Stack a little later on, but as nothing is planned now, but it will soon be. So I will just like to state as these last words that more information and more webinars will follow in their service space. This is just the beginning. So I think this has been a great introduction, open up the port of elaborating on this subject.